Hello everyone and welcome to Combat Mission Black Sea. I've not actually created a video for this game yet, and you've probably been waiting if you like the Combat Mission games. So this is the modern conflict setting over in Ukraine and Russia, and this mission is a small mission, more tiny actually if you go by the game sizings, and it's basically a platoon of behind the enemy lines US soldiers trying to assault and conduct a raid on some Russian AAA. And yes, we're basically just going to hit them and then run away before the enemy has a chance to react. If we look at the tactical map, we've got enemy anti-air defences with infantry guard in these buildings, built up area here, and we've got the cover of this river and forest to try and get close, conduct the raid and withdraw through. So it should be a fairly simple plan, douche, 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 douche. But we'll have another look when we get to the actual map. Okay, so straight away we can see our forces spread out across the top left hand corner with our recon element basically in the middle of the map. Enemy infantry appear to be deployed along a shallow wall facing towards the direction I'm coming from, slightly to my right flank, with further infantry deployed to look across the bridge and possible contacts within the compound itself. As the battle starts, I get my brave troopers to start moving their way forward very, very quickly, just trying to get within range of the enemy, knowing that this area in front of them should be fairly safe as the recon element has progressed through it. They are moving to mutual positions where they'll be able to give each other mutual cover, and I have a smaller recon element moving up on the left flank and hopefully guarding me against the tree line to my far left. Towards the end of the first minute, my recon team manages to spot one of the enemy vehicles, so that should be a nice kill at the end. My foot sloggers continue to move forward along the riverbank, getting close to the enemy in minute 2. Still no contact seen on this side of the river at all. Nearing the end of the second minute, some evil Ruskies were spotted looking over the wall towards my recon unit, so this will be a position I need to keep some careful eyes on and make sure they don't spot me as I move my way up. My infantry force continues moving down the river in minute 3. Still no contact spotted. I'm starting to try and pick up the pace here. We need to get to the objective and conduct the raid in time. When I get a wee bit closer, we're going to be a bit more cautious because I'm sure the enemy will have some sort of forward observation post on this side of the river. The spotters have managed to grab a look at a second Strela anti-air vehicle, so that's nice. It looks like all three are going to be in the same place, easier for my assault. Interesting turn of events as the spotting team in the bottom left there sees some enemy infantry jumping over the wall and starting to make their way down towards friendly lines as they move up along this riverbank. Friendlies should be seen possibly to our rear here, yes. So that's not the best of occasions, especially when we're starting to ford the river with one of the fire teams. Some Russian movement is spotted as my team continues to cross the river. Across in the background, some Russian sniper unit is seen briefly crossing the bridge. Again, enemy patrols moving out towards me is not a good sign. As my HQ unit moves up on the right here, we spot even more Russians crossing the bridge. At this point we're in a bit of danger as my units are effectively moving up on either side of this river, and yet the enemy seem to be spread out across my front, both left and right. So in naval terms, I'm effectively doing what's called as crossing the T. And they're going to have a lot more guns to bear and a lot more cover facing towards me. And the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm thinking that the Russians, this isn't a raid under cover of darkness. The Russians know we're coming, especially when they have infantry lying down facing towards us in the forest, which I spotted. This is a minute of combat, and unfortunately is where it all starts to kick off. I was hoping to get closer under the cover of darkness, but unfortunately the enemy gets far too close to my units and within their safe engagement range. So, to do them justice, my men decided to take the chance to kill them before the Russians spotted them first. So as you can see them moving up, rifle up, spots them moving, they're too close. So a quick snapshot as some Russians move across our sight, briefly highlighted against the backdrop, and then for the most part the men decide that, right, this is enough, the Russians are moving through the forest, we need to actually start engaging. So as you can see, there's shots flying all over the place, from my men on the right, from others on the left. I don't think we've had any kills on either side yet. However, I think it's time to just go guns blazing. There's a brief pause in the fighting, my men keep moving up the bank, however, these fellows spot a group of Russians moving through the forest, and they don't really stand the chance moving into my positions, even though it's the dead of night and moving through heavy foliage. They immediately hear the casualty, my men keep firing into the forest and the enemy positions. So I've got fire from both sides of the bank. I'm thinking if I keep moving up slowly, in neutral positions, we can try and keep the Russians on the retreat and on the back foot. If we follow their own forces into their positions, we should be in good stead. As my men keep engaging this position, we basically wipe out what appears to be an entire Russian squad, fire team, that's moved up into our position. So a successful fight all around, enabling friendly troops to start their move forward across both sides of the river.
Contact, enemy vehicle. Follow me, advance. Keep moving.
So as you can see over here, we have infantry units to begin their slow march on the other side as well. We're going to go straight into their teeth and take the fight to them. As my units are moving across the river, you can hear them taking pot shots at this Russian LMG gunner hiding behind the wall. So probably wasn't the best move to just have them aiming at anything at will. Interesting assault choice by my fire teams. They see some Russians along this wall and start to think that it might be a good idea to engage at fairly long range with rifles, just from across the other side of the bank. That's those forces over here firing at these infantry here, not doing all that much. There are actually some firing going on. Comes over here. That is what happens when you fire a javelin when you're in the middle of the forest. However, number 2 is more successful. And Strela number 1 goes down. Things start to heat up as my infantry move up, following the destruction of the first shot, and for the first time the Russians start to engage us from the town. We are now obviously in engagement range. We take our first casualty in a wounded man over the side of the river. This firefight dies down for now though. Unfortunately over here we take our first casualty and a wounded hits the deck from what I think is a Russian sniper from over our left. That's going to be a real problem to deal with. The men briefly engage and pin down a single infantryman spotted on one side of the wall. Really not doing much at the moment. I'm worried about the flanks to the left and rear of this camera position. There's some fire exchange between my teams moving up the bank here and enemies positioned along the wall, which is a slight worry, especially when we take some minor damage as they do so. But we need to get close to these houses to start engaging the enemy. Unfortunately, the enemy seem to have got this position fairly nailed down, so we need to try and get overwhelming firepower. I want you to see this engagement with the trees turned off so you can actually see what's going on here, because it's very interesting. It's a long firefight between infantry units stacked along this wall and my infantry as they move along. Unfortunately, there's a gap in the trees here, and things do not go well for this scout team as they move across, where we take casualty number 2 and 3. For some reason they decide to slow down here, and we take a man wounded, shortly followed by another man, even though we're desperately trying to pin these guys along the wall down with the rest of our forces. Unfortunately for the enemy, the US Army comes with some fairly ridiculous weaponry, and they like to play with the toys. and the Russians doing most of the damage are no more. Still in the middle of a fairly furious firefight here, especially where these casualties are going down. Just desperately trying to get those Russians to keep their heads down on the ball while I move my positions to take them out. Luckily it seems like we're able to do just that. This is not a good turn, folks. This is where it appears that my strategy in this battle may have been slightly bad, and that I pushed my luck a wee bit too far with the raid. The enemy has an infantry fighting vehicle that turned up, so it immediately takes a single casualty amongst my men while the Russians continue to engage along the wall. Not only does it do that, it then takes a nice position basically to my rear flank and carries on lighting us up fairly horribly. We are in the midst of a graveyard. 2 infantry fire teams are having a horrible time and are basically reduced to crawling or dead wounded. Things are not looking good. At this point in the battle, I have 3 exhausted men unable to move, desperately trying to fight their way out of this situation, and 2 other men from broken down fire teams trying to sprint away. One is Sprill here, trying desperately to move, and the other is another infantryman called Hearn, so we'll watch them to see if they can make it away. Unfortunately, the 3 fellows didn't make it long, and so all is left is for these 2 brave warriors to try and get their way across the forest to take the bad news back to their cowardly lieutenant, who's sitting all the way in the rear as the Russians fight us off. Sad tidings as my infantry forces retreat from what was an utter catastrophe, trying to make their way through, avoiding enemy contact. The 2 single survivors of the assault, 2/3, making their way back, with the cowardly lieutenant who's fallen back from his overwatch position at the top of that hill. Things aren't looking really good. It's a sad day. Not very many men made it. You can see the last fellow, an exhausted Sprill, makes his way across the river to their regroup point before they retreat and get back to friendly lines. Of the 13 men that went in, 6 men walk out. 19 men that walk in. This is bad. 13 men lost their lives. 5 men lost their lives, 8 men wounded, presumed captured. However, the Russians lost exactly the same amount, with 12 men killed, 1 man wounded. But on top of that, they lost an armoured vehicle, so I'm counting that as a statistics win. But really, we suffered a major defeat. We failed to destroy the AA battery, and we failed to keep friendly casualties high. At least the Russians didn't eliminate my HQ. They did eliminate the patrol pretty much, and they kept their friendly casualties way up. As you can see, they still have 28 men left. Let's have a quick review of the map. So as you can see, the armoured personnel carrier followed the infantry up the forest but didn't manage to spot them, and we were able to escape. The Russians had infantry screening forces that came up with the armoured infantry carrier, dismounted, and started scraping through the forest. The Russians had an entire infantry squad, which didn't really do much. I mean, they gave me 1 casualty from their sniper, but other than that, really didn't do much. That came up to the left here. And over here, they had a single infantry commander in the roof, with 2 anti-air assets completely fine in the rear, 1 knocked out in the front, and then various infantry assets across the wall here. As you can see, the javelin took out 4, and wounded another 1. So this squad suffered horrifically at the end of a single javelin shot. And there's another infantry casualty across the wall. There were Russian casualties. We get rid of the trees for a second. Along the riverbank somewhere. So yeah, here we go. The entirety of second squad of the Russians was wiped out along the riverbank. But unfortunately for me, as we get... Wait, where are they? It's very difficult to spot them in their camo. We had a horrific amount of friendly casualties here. Like, really rather painful. Lots and lots and lots of them. But yes, I hope you enjoyed watching this fight and didn't cringe too badly at my loss. Maybe I'll revisit this when I've forgotten what the scenario's like. Because obviously now I go back in, I'll know where the enemy positions are, so it's less fun. But in any case, if you've got any comments, feel free to post them below, and I hope to be putting up more this kind of content from this game up. So yeah, I'll see you again next time.